Good morning to all the students, regional center staff, and today's speaker. I, on behalf of Indira Gandhi National Open University Regional Center, Visakhapatnam, welcome you all for this webinar, which we organize on the eve of National Science Day 2025. As you are all aware, across the country, we celebrate National Science Day in every year, 28th February, to commemorate the Raman effect. And also remembering our young scientists who contributed a lot to the nation development. As a part of it, Indira Gandhi National Open University across the country in all our 57 regional centers celebrating this National Science Day by organizing this type of webinars, conducting the quiz, essay writing competition to encourage our young, energetic, knowledgeable students. And also even our governments also encouraging the young scientists. You are all aware, Indira Gandhi National Open University also established the innovation club at the regional center level and at the Delhi level. Through that, we also encourage the young minds for the innovative ideas, and we are issuing the certificates as well as their innovations also we are publishing. You are all aware, IGNOU Regional Center Visakhapatnam is first among all these activities. We are continuously striving to provide better student support services and having tried to close to our learners for support services. As a part of it, today we organized this webinar on science, scientists, and nationalism in modern India. We have invited Professor B. Ishwar Rao, Department of History, University of Hyderabad. I really appreciate our Senior Regional Director, Dr. Dharma Rao, for choosing and selecting a apt personality who is having a lot of knowledge and who is also a young, energetic professor, where his young mind is going to give a lot of stuff on this particular topic. Before I invite Professor Ishwar Rao, I request Dr. Dharma Rao, my senior colleague and senior regional director of the IGNOU Regional Center Visakhapatnam, to give his initial remarks. Dr. Dharma Rao, please.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna Rao. Thank you very much for this meeting. As you all know, IGNOU Regional Center Visakhapatnam is continuously organizing many activities in line with the Government of India mandatory themes. So, as a part of our activities, this year also we are celebrating National Science Day 2025. And for us, today we have an honored academician and an experienced who worked in both the corners of this country, from the Department of History Currently, he is a professor in the Department of History, University of Hyderabad, Professor Ishwar Rao, a good friend of mine, as well as our Deputy Director, Dr. E. Krishna Rao. And he has vast experience in the history of science and technology studies. So, first of all, on behalf of all our students of Indira Gandhi National Open University, our study centers, our coordinators, and academic counselors, I sincerely thank Professor Ishwara for accepting our invitation to give this guest lecture to all of us on this day. As you all know, we are continuously, this country is celebrating National Science Day to commemorate the Raman effect, the Nobel Prize discovery. It not only contributed to the scientific progress, but also uh, it has kept India in the uh, global arena. So we are remembering Dr. C.V. Raman on this day, as well as many other scientists. It's not only for him, but it is the time where we can at least remember the scientific progress of this country and how we excelled as a nation. Also, at this juncture, I would like to remind all of you the very definition of the science, the very definition of the scientist and the progress have been continuously changing, particularly in the nowadays. The very definition of the science, in quote unquote, is also changed a bit. So it is high time for all of us to again study what exactly the science is, and also we need to develop a scientific temper in the educational institutions. This is what the NEP 2020 also envisages, to have the scientific temper among the students, particularly. So, this is the time to develop some insights into the science knowledge, and I hope this webinar will help that. And our guest lecturer, uh, person, the academician from a reputed university like Hyderabad Central University. He will be giving us some insights through which we can develop our knowledge in this area. And I once again thank all the students for joining this session and our coordinators and Professor Ishwara once again. Thank you very much for joining us. And I request Dr. Krishnarao to please take forward the proceedings. Thank you everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dharmarao, for your initial remarks. You are all aware. I hope you all degree and PG students, you are watching our social media as well as visiting the different websites for your academic activities. This year, theme of this National Science Day is empowering India youth for global leadership in science and innovation for Vikasit Bharat, where the remembering our previous leaders, where the young generation should become as a future leaders. And also you always to think for the innovations. I remember as here in this point, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's quote, where I used to tell the cultivation of mind is the ultimate aim of the human life, because we are having the brain that should be used for your benefit, your family benefit, as well as the nation benefit. All the time you have to think innovatively. Young generation is having a lot of energy, that should be materialized, that should be yielded with the result for the development. Here we are having the iconic personality, Dr. B. Ishwar Rao, Professor B. Ishwar Rao, as Dr. Dharma Rao told, is our best friend at the University of Hyderabad. Of course, he is 1 year senior than me, but the guidance which he has given to me in the beginning stage of my MPhil and the PhD time at the University of Hyderabad, he has completed his PhD in history from Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Madras in 2007. Later, he selected as a assistant professor in the Department of History in the Assam Central University. Further, he moved to his own university, University of Hyderabad, as a associate professor in the Department of History, University of Hyderabad. Now he became as a professor, and he will become as a head, and further he will become as a dean in our university. Really, we feel very happy to invite him for this webinar. For his credit, he has published more than a dozen at the international level and the 20 articles in the national journals. He also given more than 10 invited lectures, as well as he chaired the national and international seminars. For his credit, he also got the fellowship Welcome Trust Travel Grant. Also, he visited London for his research activity. And if you see, he also produced MPhil and the PhD students. They also done the research on the history. Particularly, he specialized in the history of medicine. And also he written a lot on the dams, and even he touched upon the agriculture history and the technology also. Is having the knowledge on the different areas connecting to the history, whatever the information is available in our history, that is going to give you that knowledge to the young generation. I hope you are going to, you will enjoy this online webinar, which the topic is Science, Scientist, and Nationalism in modern India. This is a very important one. Sir, Professor B. Ishwar Rao ji, once again, on behalf of Indira Gandhi National Open University Regional Center, Visakhapatnam, I profoundly thank you for accepting our invitation and agreed to deliver this lecture. I request you to please give your lecture.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna Rao, and also Dr. Dharma Rao for inviting me to this webinar. I know it is a reconnecting with all with by calling me to this webinar. So since it's lost after a long time, we are meeting this way. I thank you for this opportunity to talk, to interact with your colleagues as well as your students. So on this occasion, I just going into the what is that, my own topic I am supposed to discuss. Can I start, Krishna Rao?
Yes, please, please.
Okay. So as you know, today is National Science Day. But what way you maybe wonder why I'm talking about science? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a what is that doctor. I am not even practitioner of the technology, but I'm dealing with the history of science, history of technology, history of medicine, right? So because of that, I'm giving this talk on this. My even research as even Professor Dr. Dharma Rao and also Krishna Rao mentioned about my research interests and my research and all. So it is all connected to this area. Therefore, I'm um, eligible to talk on this kind of about the topics. Thank you for this opportunity once again, for giving this up, giving this opportunity to talk and interact with the people, with your students. So this today is our very important occasion, right? As you know that today is it's not the CV Raman's birthday. It is the discovery that made by CV Raman, um, CV Raman, because CV Raman is one of the important person in the field of science. His name is called Sir Chandrasekharan Venkatraman. He born in November 7th, 1882, and died in November 21st, 1970s. He was popularly known as C.V. Raman. He was one of the important contributor to the science, not just only the Indian science, but his contribution is known as the Raman effect. On this day, C.V. Raman got a Nobel Prize, and and because of that, we all considered as a nation celebrating as National Science Day. So my topic when it comes to because when it comes to science, scientist, nationalism in modern India, why we are talking about that? Because there is a background. Because we cannot just simply say that without understanding um, what is that the 19th century or early part of 20th century. You can say that before independence, before freedom, independence. India got independence in 1947, right? 15th August. But before that, what happened? What kind of debate that happened? We all know that um, political history, political movements, political events, even the players who played a very important role in mobilizing the people to fight against the British. But what is the kind of role that played by the scientists? What is that science that evolved during this time? What ways in which scientists who are, you can say that, contributed to the science? Because science is something, there is a lot of debate on the science, right? Science is something that originated in the West. Therefore, the West, non-Western people were not contributing to any in contributing to the Western modern science. These are the kind of debates. But when you're looking at our own scientists, their contribution during, you can say that 19th and early 20th century, particularly after 1910 onwards. And there are a lot of debate on means the contribution made by the scientists like C.V. Raman, because he was one of the best example who we are crediting, giving the entire nation, paying homage and celebrating as a National Science Day. So, and why, see, even C.V. Raman is from Tamil Nadu, present day Tamil Nadu. His education was also in Madras, um, and he, particularly Madras University, before coming to Madras University Presidency College, and then he got Indian Finance Service in Calcutta as an assistant accountant general at the age of 19. There, when he went to Chennai, Kolkata, where he met people. Well, and he has a very good what is that uh, acquaintance with the science, but he was also did score well in science subjects. So therefore, his interests were in science, and with that interest, he also got an acquaintance with the Indian Science Association for the cultivation of science, which was started by Mahendralal Sarkar. This was the first institute in India which allowed him to carry out the independent research, where he made is a major contribution in optics. So from there, that's what how his journey was began. And then that's what we also have to see this Indian Science Association for Cultivation of Science, where how this organization that led various kinds of scientists who involved in developing scientific temper and the science research. So therefore we can see those things that happened in even in Bengal. But that is a one story, one part of a story, where we can also say that CV Raman has a connection with the Indian Association for Cultivation of Science. And then if you are seeing that the early we can say the early 20th century, and before that mid 19th century, the national movement was also expanding and also propagating the Swadeshi, and with the coming of the M.K. Gandhi, Mohan Charan Karamchand Gandhi, emerged one of the mass movement. With this, even it expanded all over in India. With this, even the scientists were also involved. The scientists actively involved in the national movement. Um, and national movement, but the scientist was what way you can say that what way they were connected. The scientists were committed towards the national development as well as the science. So that's why the scientists who expressed a newfound confidence about the science in Indian society, because Indian society, that's what as described by the British, saying that Indian society does not have any modern scientific traditions, and therefore, and that is the critique made by the British. And to counter that, Indian scientists were also finding various level of the Indian tradition, Indian practices or Indian knowledge systems to and discovered and responding to these what is that the kind of allegations made by the British scientists and British what is that scientific organizations. So therefore, in like Mahendralal Sakkar and all, who were the first person, who was the first person who responded to this and started his own organization. That is called what we call the Indian Association for Popularizing the Science. So with that, as I said, this Mahendralal Sakkar, because um, uh, so that's the reason, because basically the Mahendralal Sakkar, later on PC Roy, Jesse Bose, and PN Mukherjee, CV Raman, all these PN Datta, all these are the people who established a legitimate position in the active, what we can say is in legitimate position in the science, in the field of science, with their active participation, not just only the science alone, but also in the national movement and the national movement discourse. Because Indian national movement at the time, it was not just only asking for the freedom from political freedom, but also they also wanted to get rid of what the dependency from the Western science, Western knowledge, Western technology. That is the therefore that is the reason why the Nehru was Jawaharlal Nehru was first prime minister, was talking about science is something that is very much we have to um, um, uh, bring the science that need to be cultivated. Science need to be encouraged. Scientific research should be encouraged. Why? Because he says that whatever the problem that we are all facing now, whatever the problem that we are all facing now, can be solved with the help of the science. So that is also like backwardness and underdevelopment, low productivity, all kinds of issues. And also at the same time, there are social issues like social evils, like the religious dogmas, irrationality. All these can be erased with the help of the science. So therefore, these new, as I said, as well nationalist like Jawaharlal Nehru, and also the scientists like all these people like Jagdish Chandra Bose to even P.C. Ray, Mahendralal Sarkar, C.V. Raman, and P.N. Datta. These are the people who are also um, try to establish a legitimate position in the field of the science. So and with their active participation in the nationalist discourse, and on the other hand, even as I said, Jawaharlal Nehru and all were also uh, mm, was very much interested to bring the science and technology, was admired for science and technology. That is the reason why in the first and second 5 years plan he was mostly emphasizing on rapid industrialization. And also he said, when he inaugurated Bakranangal Dam project, he said these are all modern temples of India, because these are the technologies that can solve our problems: poverty, illiteracy, whatever the hunger, scarcity of the food. All this can be solved only with the science. On the other hand, Gandhi and all, it is a different kind of argument um, made by Gandhi. So I'm not going into the details of that because we don't have the time to talk about Gandhi and other nationalists. But I will confine to only the nationalists. The practice of science, in India, and then how this science in appropriated in the popular domain in a sense in the people and everyday life, everything, and all. So therefore you can see this, and they see these all scientists, as I mentioned earlier, they all involved in process of selecting a certain research area, shifting, negotiating, glorifying of certain elements of the Indian knowledge systems, and also try to connect with the whatever that West was popularizing, Western knowledge systems, Western scientific temper. So these are the people who are examples where you can also see that the science it's a kind of collaboration and also negotiation with the Western science. At the same time, the glorification of certain elements of the Indian science, Indian knowledge systems. That's what happened during this time. I'm focusing only one or maybe two or people like Mahendralal Sarkar or J.C. Bose or P.C. Roy. These are the people briefly I will mention, and then we will see that. Even if you're saying that this uh, you need to see the what that the world of scientists, how the cultural transformation and the displacement of nationalist science influences scientific and cultivation and research. That's what happened in the case of even the Mahendralal Sarkar and the P.C. Ray, where they've famously contributed for in their field. So for example, Mahendralal Sarkar, he was a famous doctor. He was also from Bengal, and who founded Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science in the year 1876. On January 15th, he started this organization. These activities, basically, he founded this organization called the Indian Association for the Cultivation of the Science, and basically focused on the popularize among the uh, people, educated people, and also linking with the nationalism and scientific research. It also helped to engage the Indians in fundamental research in science, explore the what is the inner logic of the science, the question that asked by the modern science, and she also try to find out whether these modern science or the Indian knowledge systems have any solution, whatever the present knowledge system that has. So that's why the logic of science question develop their own hypothesis, arguments here, thereby establish themselves as a citizen of modern scientific nation. That is the aim of Mahendralal Sarkar. Modern, a citizen of modern scientific nation, because The allegation, the criticism of the British is that we don't have, you don't have the scientific culture. So that is the kind of argument made by the Britishers, and that's what they says. And even that is a cultural critic made by even the Britishers, saying that you are all living with these caste dogmas, religious dogmas. You doesn't have any kind of knowledge system like in the West. That's where in the 17th century scientific revolution that happened. That scientific revolution, what is that scientific revolution? It's new kind of knowledge that evolved, new science that evolved. What is that new science? Science is something that come with the all these parameters that fulfilling. What is that parameters? Science, for example, science follow what is that, leaving the subjective matters, only focusing on the universal truth, or the, what is that, natural laws, and are trying to find out the truth. These are the kind of things which mostly in objective way in which investigating natural laws and finding the solution, finding the truth. But for that you need to have the methodology. In the case of Indian knowledge system, you doesn't have this kind of knowledge system. Therefore, your knowledge, your science, whatever you have, it's very rudimentary. It's a medieval in its nature. It's not meeting with the kind of knowledge that emerged in the West, that came with the Enlightenment project and all. So therefore, a new kind of science, new science, what the modern science. The science has more into what is that methodology, more into mathematical explanation of the natural world. So these are the things that came in the West. That those are the character, those are the knowledge, those are the science was not there in the Indian knowledge system. That is a major critic that was there on Indian knowledge systems, Indian scientific traditions. Therefore, from so that is the reason why Indian scientists like Mahendra Sarkar and all are promoting this Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, which was established in 1876. Again, I'm repeating this because this is one of the important organizations where he was popularizing the modern science, modern science, and the line with the modern, what is that, knowledge systems, the modern scientific knowledge systems. So therefore, these are all was followed like questions, because the logic of knowledge, science, questions develop their own hypotheses, arguments, and thereby establish themselves of the science. So through which the Mahendra Sarkar wanted to establish modern scientific knowledge system for this nation, for these nations. Therefore, he was promoting this association, so that cultivation of and research in science by Indians, so that whatever these kind of allegations made by the British can be erased. The second one is popularization on the science within the general public and populace, so that this modern scientific temper can be spread among the people, so that the people can also think uh, differently than the existing way. So you wanted this institution to link the Royal Institute of London, because this Royal Institute of London, which was very famous, and also which is one of the organizations where the entire British scientific activities were controlled by them. And so therefore the British Association for the Advancement Science, so we wanted to link with that, so that the science in within India can be developed, can be popularized, with that objectives. And he was started this organization. It was systematically delivered, not only illustrated experiments performed by the lectures, audience should be invented, thought to the perform themselves. That is the reason why these scientific science association was trying to popularize the modern science in Indian public, to the Indian public. So that is the reason why he was. So therefore, the Mahendra Sarkar, for him, science was a metaphor of nationalism, because without science, nation cannot be developed. Without science, nation cannot be elevated. So that is the reason why the political nationalism, he says that political nationalism had no meaning without science as its guiding spirit. Otherwise, you will fall into the old kind of, what is that, India. So that's why the science for him is a liberty, enlightenment from proceeding dark ages, and a catalyst for new cultural and political self-expression. So that is the reason why they were talking about modern science. Modern science. So again, I will repeat, science meant for him, it is like a liberty, it is a liberty, enlightenment. Enlightenment means each aspect. It's not that it's a replacing the earlier kind of notions that whatever things that are existed, it's not by guided or action of the God, but they were also, there is also a reason through which we have to analyze whatever the natural laws, whatever things that is happening in the nature. So that enlightenment project. So that's why it is talking about science meant for him is the liberty, enlightenment from proceeding the dark ages. What is the dark ages? In the medieval age, we were all thinking that the knowledge is confining only to the what we call these religious dogmas, all kinds of things, and the catalyst for a new cultural and political self-expression. So therefore, he said that. Um, uh, so that's why he says that nationhood without a science, nationhood is nation achieving the nation is no meaning, no meaning. So for that, he was popularizing and by science, so that substantial achievement in the field of intellect, so that you can produce the more intellectual people. That is the real spirit of Indian nation. So he also says that blending scientific culture, the virtue of blending scientific culture with a truly national life. That is what we have to. He was aiming for. Without science, citizen cannot be highly regulated his conduct, because if you are without science, citizen cannot be highly regulated his conduct. Conduct means every day the behavior in the public or whatever. Indispensable key in a science. That is what even if you want to be a good citizen, you need to have a science. The science will give a kind of a touch. It's like a touch bearer, so that you will go into the light towards your journey. You will go into the towards the light. So therefore, he was talking about that, the purpose of discipline, intellectual. He was, it's a science is not nothing with the, so that's what we also have to think of. Science is nothing to do with the only the laboratory, the experiment, or whatever the kind of do the scientists do in their four walls of four walls of yeah, laboratory. But beyond that, he was talking about, saying that uh, the purpose of discipline, intellectual, moral, religious, most efficient study of what in all its form, most efficient study is a science. So that gives a more what is that efficient study is a science. So that's why it is a, he says that it is also necessary and also eternal, as are in the truths all science concerns all mankind for all time. Without science, we cannot proceed further. So therefore, the scientific spirit was a clear indicator of the national development and national progress. It is a more or less similar to the kind of argument made by the Jawaharlal Nehru. So therefore, he says that for science was a moral force. It's not the moral force. Most of our society run by this moral force, right? But that moral force is mostly guided by, inspired by, we're taken from the religion. But he was not for that. But the science can give you thing and give you a different kind of understanding of the natural world, natural laws. So that gives some more into, you reflect into your moral life, your virtue, moral force. So therefore, the Western science is saying that we also admire with the Western science. We cannot deny that Western science is no more useful. Western science, he says that it's represented because it is already well advanced, well developed, and evolved, and therefore we have to admire with that. We admire we admire the Western science. So therefore, and then you use that Western science into the Indian nation. So therefore, he was talking about Western science represented as enlightenment, path towards correct judgment, because otherwise you will maybe making a mistakes, and the ability to make the right choice. Because if you are a scientist, scientific way of thinking, you will make a right choice. So with these characters, with these things, you will head, you will achieve nationhood. So therefore, the moral aspect of the science he was talking about, which was very key to national development. But the moral aspect was not from the religious sources, but he was talking about the moral aspect was derived from the modern science. So therefore, it need to emphasize on the cultivation of modern science on their own, and also negotiate with the important what that knowledge system that is available in the West and used for the national development. So that's what we all think, because this we all know that eastern um, civilizations mostly in spiritual, not in the materialistic. So materialistic, because these are the two important, as I said, two important uh, um, yeah, ideas. You can say that. So therefore, that spiritual should also go with the material aspect of the civilizations. He was talking about that. So therefore, science and morality, the moral force that could correct the knowledge, and you can also develop a rational knowledge systems in all aspect of our human life who are living in this country, in this India. So with that, we can achieve whatever the national development, whatever the um, kind of national nation can be, nationalists who can define, who can also achieve the science. So that's why the nationalism is not just um, looking through the scientific paradigm. So therefore, we can now see this. On the other hand, you can see Jesse Bose. He was also talking about following the leadership of the West, and the West is acknowledged, and is also he wanted, we have to inspire from the West, but at the same time, uh, he is saying that the Bose is something, he was differently saying that science is not aligned to Indian culture. It is not that it's new to the Indian culture, but he say that India need to learn it entirely from the West. It need not to learn it entirely from the West, because he says that scientific essence even we have in the Indian itself. But only thing is we need to bring the modern scientific essence into our life, so that uh, the fusion of these both Indian and modern scientific temper can be evolved. And that is the reason why he was also emphasizing on modern scientific research by the Indians, which is like a means of pilgrimage to the essence. Because like pilgrimage, we all know why we need to get, the people are going, because they will there is a belief that they will be um, um, completely overcome the kind of sins that they committed. So that's why the pilgrimage kind of a thing, that is essence, the realizing Indian scientific spirit. So that's the reason why Eastern spirituality also need to be go with the Western scientific materialistic science materialistic science. So because it was earlier, so that's why the Bose was challenging the idea of Western science, which the Western science is more materialistic, it's more mechanical, mechanistic world view. That was due to three factors. There's all these so they basically then he was talking about how these in Western culture, West Indian culture, need to be integrated with the Western word, that modern science. But and that he was talking about on a monoism, unity in the diversity. That's what because he was also follower of the Brahmas and all, Brahma Samaj and all. So therefore, he says that the unity of the life gave the examples meeting the West and the East. It happened with the Hellenic Greek, Eastern Aryans meet here in the Taxila to exchange the best each had to offer. After many centuries, the East and the West had met once more with the coming of the British colonialism, and with the coming of the British, what is that, modern science. It would be a test of the real greatness of the two civilizations. He's not just critiquing the Western civilization and also neither critiquing the Indian civilizations, but he was saying that the blend version of the kind of a science. And the two civilizations, so both should be finer and better for the stimulus of the contact. So in this, so therefore, he was saying in this contact, the East is endowed with a special privilege in its imaginative, metaphysical mind, was particularly suited to biological work, where we know there's because this is a what even in all things, life is there. Like life, we cannot just deny that. That's the reason why he says that he discovered the life mechanism even in the interiors of the trees. One has to become the tree and feel the throbbing into beating the heart. So that is the kind of which is mostly connected to the Indian spiritualism. So therefore, his idea of the science and it's mostly with the it's a blended into the single project which is called nationalism and science. Nationalism and science, but the science is going with the Indian spirit, Indian knowledge systems, along with the Indian spiritual spiritualism with the materialistic modern materialistic science. So so therefore he was talking about that, and the science could gain a new spiritual cosmology. That is the reason why he was saying that Indian science was served for from the Western metaphysics and materialism. Therefore, he also tried to make a sense of science in the world deeply divided into notion of the West and the East, and is connecting East and the West, and trying to club together. There is also another important what is that scientist from the Bengal. His name is called Prafulla Chandra Roy. I'm giving all these three examples because with this I will stop, and later on we can have a questionnaire that whatever the doubts you have. So the PC Roy, he also is a very renowned scientist, and he's also written the books called History of Hindu Chemistry, and also started Bengal Chemical and Pharmaceutical Works before writing this book in the year 1893. And also Prafulla Chandarai was basically was a chemist, and this uh, so basically he actively involved even in the national movement. His political participation started with when he was a student in England. And Ray participated in the essay competition in the India before and after the mutiny. After he came back to India, he was a very active member of the Brahma Samaj movement, which was followed by later he become a follower of the Gandhi. He attracted by the Gandhi, and with Gandhi's magnetic personality and devotion to asceticism and all. These are all inspired his messages, Gandhi's messages that like truth lives a great truth live is a greater force than the truth merely spoken. So, with that inspiration, he believed that active participation in the public life outside the science, it's like a test tube, so that you will learn so many things. Struggling against both the colonial rule and the poverty, but frequently he was traveled across India, argued for a need of national schools, Khadi, fought against untouchability, all these things. He attended the Congress meetings in Kakinada in 1925 as a delegate. So he also participated in Rowlatt Satyagraha and gave a public meeting in Calcutta. So therefore, so the nationalism prompted even the P.C. Roy is a keen interest in history and also um, as a chemist, the history of chemistry, because it became a favorite subject for him. He impressed with a French scholar. His name is called Berthelot. He wrote the book called History of Greek Alchemy. Beginning, he was trying to be corresponding with him. He believed that this transnational Indian medical knowledge system also have this kind of what that remnants knowledge of various metallic preparations that can be borrowed from taken from what is that collected from our own Indian system. So therefore he says that this Hindu chemistry is not like the kind of in the science that was projected right now, but he came with the what that traced the history of chemistry by referring the Sanskrit sources from Banaras and all, and trying to build the scientific progress and the alchemy that was existed even in Indian texts, textual sources. So therefore, so that this knowledge, this chemical knowledge, can be useful for the what that nation nation development. So therefore, the scientific progress. He says that scientific progress is like a denomination of nationhood. And he said the nation needs its own rational tradition, especially the science, so that the capacity of a nation, it can be what is that increased, and so therefore it can be achieved in all several field of knowledge and branches of literature. That is the reason why he wanted to dig out the ancient glorious past of indian science indian science, and they nurtured that, and also trying to glorify this, ensure the bright future, this glory of the past that that existed in this. So that's why he's saying that nationalists search for its own scientific culture instead of borrowing from the West. And also, and the other way, he was also confrontation with the materialistic West, materialistic science that was mostly materialistic West by the Eastern spiritual East, which was inherited in our own scholarship, Indian scholarship. Therefore, the Ray critic on the European definition of Oriental knowledge, and Orient means Eastern knowledge systems and all. Uh, he's also characterizing that it's a East and the West, that kind of thing. But East, he says that East has a scientific and materialist as well, and for that he tried to explore things through his work, that history of chemistry and all. But at the same time, he's saying that India has a rich culture, rich scientific culture, but these all gone because of. He's also saying that the social aspect of the India, particularly, was also critic of the caste system and all, Hindu practices and all. He says that with this I will stop. He says that the general notion that Hindus have always been a dreamy metaphysical people, prone to meditation, contemplation and all. In ancient India, he says that the mathematical sciences, including arithmetic and algebra, was very advanced when you compare with the Western knowledge systems. then he says that then he says that these sciences, these knowledge systems, where have gone. And that's the reason why he chosen this chemistry, the science of modern, because the chosen the chemistry. Why he chosen the chemistry? Because the chemistry was a very important subject even in the industrial world. industrial world, modern scientific industrial world, where it is a chemistry is a very important thing. It is a ideal testing ground for the scientific development and all. So therefore, the knowledge of such experimental science uh, constituted a real proof of the critical aptitude of the civilizations, while mathematics showed only the love of abstract, uh, which is not useful. I'm not saying that not useful, but um, it is a immediate use, but it's mostly the abstract things that they all talk about. But chemistry is a science par excellence, which at present determines the fate of nations, so that India could achieve whatever the West that achieved industrially. That is the reason why PC Ray selected this chemistry. So therefore, he also saw that, but at the same time, when he was also saying that East has a materialistic aspect, and was also arguing saying that West is also having the spiritual fast, like the Indians. The modern Europe, you are all thinking that it's mostly materialistic, but she has not disdain in the past into the drop in thought or the they are not the into the past. They're not dig into the past. Therefore, they are not able to collect that. So therefore, he is saying that he is also revealing the character of the Orient and the Occident. Orient, in a sense, the Eastern traditions, and the Occident means Western traditions. He's saying that his proposition was that the civilization synthesis and the universality of the science. That's what the Western people were establishing, saying that this is a Western science, a modern science, universally applicable, universally useful, universally tested, and all. So that universality of the science that was established with the coming of modern science. But he was also saying that these universalities not just all of the sudden it came. It is also have based on the Greek traditions they borrowed, reinvented that. But in the case of India also, we can also reinvent that, the scientific fast, so that we can also achieve. So that's why he's saying that the East has not always been the East. East has not always been the East. The West, he's saying that the West and the West. So therefore, he's saying that colonialism made this contestation, division between the East and the West, but there is no spiritually, there is no division between those things. So therefore, he was talking about even referring to medical texts like Charaka and Susrata and all. These are the where you can also see this, which is parallel to the Greek knowledge of the medicine and all. So therefore, his the main thesis of the Indian alchemy, the science of mercury, rasayana, that's called, and locate the independent Indian roots for this, generally viewed that it was came from the Greek via Egypt. But this idea was contested, saying that these are already there in the Indian knowledge systems. Indian alchemy predated Arab influence. So therefore, he wanted to dig that one and use, because he's saying that Susrita and Charaka was they are using these chemicals, whatever these materials for the therapeutic use, particularly the mercury and heavy metals. We know that the Indians know that very much, even before the modern medicine came into, and so therefore these are all not come from the West. Sorry, there is some noise is coming. Okay, so therefore he was talking about this. He wanted to bring this history, because he's saying that 1500 to 1600 there is a stagnation that happened with the Indian chemistry, because stagnation happened because of the colonialism, maybe something else, and even the social practices, religion, and all. He says that the history of classical Indian chemistry need to be rediscovered, the glory of glorious India's past, glorious India's past. So therefore, we can dig out. So that he is saying that his nationalism is more into the demanded originally from the India. The nation's idea mostly he says that it's a purity of its knowledge. Knowledge. Search for Hindu science was a quest for an original Indian scientific tradition for the true spirit of Indian knowledge. That is called indigenous scientific Indian scientific knowledge systems. So he's saying that this there is a coherent history of alchemy from various fragmentary sources that can be collected. You can say that 1800 to 1600, but these are all, as I said, na, India or in the Eastern scientific traditions were much more superior than even the Greek, and also independent, parallel to even ancient any other ancient traditions, and try to establish India as far ahead of even the Greeks. So therefore, he's saying that hormonal pathology is known to Indians. You know this, na? Three dosa theory. These all so hormonal pathology. Pathology means identifying the disease. Known to Indians during the time of Buddha itself, even before the birth of Hippocrates. Hippocrates is the main, what you can say that they are the founding medical practitioners of the Greek. So therefore, he's saying that, but even see, there are historical reasons on which this knowledge was not evolved into the kind of knowledge that developed in. He's basically saying that uh, there is a lot of things like even the Buddhist during the Buddhist time, their knowledge was not taken into even the Deccan and Tibet, because this Brahmanism, that invasion of Muslims, these are all huddled to even taking them. He says that Deccan was remained safe depository of Indic chemistry. That's the reason why we can see some of the things can be explored. And so those are the things. He was also saying that the Eastern superiority disagreed for the contest in which, but he also saying that there are also social and cultural evils that also obstructing the Indian science to not to evolve into the modern science. He says that. Even he says that why 17th century scientific revolution happened in the West, but the same kind of scientific revolution did not happen in India. It's because he says that there are three major issues. He's saying that the decline of Indian scientific spirit is increasingly because of the caste rigidity. He is also exposing the caste rigidities in the Indian societies. He argued in saying that Brahminical revivalism against the Buddhism, and the caste was established in a more rigid form. Even the Manusmriti later Puranas tended to glorify the priestly class. This class, which was traditionally the carriers of scientific knowledge, now stopped being intellectually active. And this is the reason why he was talking, saying that this liberal pursuit of the knowledge that was hurdled because of these social rigidities. Therefore, this Indian knowledge system was not evolved into the kind of knowledge that was that happened in the Europe. That is the reason why you can see that 17th century modern scientific revolution that happened, various scientific development that also transformed the entire the West. So therefore, that liberal pursuit was curtailed because of our own traditional what that societies. So that's why he says that India has the state of things which were quite different. Hindu nations had lain in the moribund conditions for thousand years, thousand years or more. Our ancestors, he says that our ancestors lost the power of thinking for themselves, salvagingly, the blindly followed the injection of Shastras as interpreted by Raghunandan of the Navadip and his talks. So their caste system had taken the firm root in the Hindu society. Therefore, this kind of knowledge was not developed. So therefore, he is saying that. So he was also talking about the Shastra. Therefore, identifies the main culprits, and these are all like it's not my words. This is a P.C. Roy talking about why Indian scientific tradition that was backward, and it's not achieved into the kind of modern scientific knowledge system, modern science. So he was saying this. So therefore, we need to come out of that. Then only we'll achieve the national science. National science. So he's saying that caste rigidities led to an isolation of intellectual class, because that's the reason. Now even Vedas, they say that we should not pronounce loudly, so that if you are pronouncing loudly, Sudras would be listening. So therefore, they don't want to what is that, open up their own what is that, knowledge system. So therefore, he's saying that caste rigidities led to an isolation of the intellectual class from the social realities. Without that, because the intellectual activities only happens in the society, but that was what that that happened. The intellectual activities was liberated from the cultural and religious rigidities in the West. Whereas in India, whereas in India, these rigidities were still continuing. Therefore, this backwardness, this kind of the lagging behind, we are lagging behind the Western what that modern scientific knowledge systems. So therefore, as I said, now these are all, as I said, these are the scientists. What I mean to conclude that these are the scientists who are also talking about digging their own knowledge systems and finding the faults with the traditions, customs, religious practices, and social realities, linking that why these Indian knowledge systems not evolved into the kind of the knowledge that have developed in India. So therefore, the nationalist, this new knowledge system, the new science, is saying that nationalist formulation add in the sanction to the long, as I said, now, pedigree for to come out from these social and cultural religious rigidities. Then only the national science can be achieved. So therefore, he was saying that regressive, for that you need to establish new kind of institutions and rational thinking and new knowledge and what is that methodologies, all kinds of modern parameters need to be applied even for developing, evolving the modern science. So basically, he was saying that. So he's saying that even more, it's not that the PC I was talking about, but the many of our what that British experts also talking about that, because most of this knowledge was controlled by this, and there is also, so therefore, the Oriental knowledge systems and all were confining and mostly dominated by the tradition, customs, and practices of the social, mostly within the social realities. So that's how. So therefore, what I mean to say that these are the scientists, we're not just only talk, talking about scientific activity, but they are also this scientific activity, the science they are proposing, the scientific activity they are um, uh, um, propagating, they are the pursuing the science for the nation development and all, so through which nation can achieve, nation can be evolved into a rational and also very enlightened nation. So with this, because there is also a lot of debate on this, I am not going to the details of um, remaining people because of the because of these time cuts. I will leave with this, and if you have any questions, please you can ask.
Yeah, thank
With this,
you.
I will stop. I will stop.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Ishwar Rao, for a wonderful talk connecting science, scientists, and nationalism in the modern India, taking the stocks from the freedom struggle to the present days, how the science was connected, and the scientists are connected with the nationalism, where uh, knowledge has been stopped sometime due to the social stigma which our Indian society is having, where the scientific culture, how these people, the J.C. Bose or the Mahendra Lal
Sarkar,
Sarkar, B.P. Ray,
PC Ray,
B.C. Ray,
Prafulla Chandra Rai.
analyzed from that you have mentioned very clearly. This really thought-provoking talk, where every citizen of the India and the young minds should think, and they also have to read our scientists and the nationalists also. Before I invite the students, I request Dr. Sirisha, our coordinator of the Women's College, for your wonderful support. I am extending my heartfelt thanks. Please, she is also professor in the economics. Please give your reflections on this talk, please. Dr. Sirisha, please.
Not audible.
Yeah, I think maybe Dr. Sirisha. Okay, maybe some issue with her audio. Dr. Professor Ishwaraji, can I ask one or two students to ask the question?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm
I
very
think.
happy to be.
Yeah, Mr. I think Sonu Kumar. You want to ask?
No question, sir. Informative session.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. Information, good information. मैं पटना बिहार से हूँ और आपने जो जानकारी साझा किया बहुत ही अच्छा लगा मुझे सुनकर और बहुत कुछ जानने को मिला आपके माध्यम से और ये बहुत जो चीजें छूटी हुई थी वो आपने पूर्ण किए और सचमुच में विषय भी महत्वपूर्ण था, इंफॉर्मेटिव सेशन भी रहा और इंफॉर्मेटिव टॉपिक भी था। तो मैंने सोचा नहीं था जो 2025 का जो साइंस डे पर जो थीम था उससे हटकर आपने बातों को रखा और आपने सारी चीजों को अपने समेटा एक अपने बातों से, ये बहुत बड़ी बात है। और मेरा विषय तो पत्रकारिता का रहा है, मैं पत्रकारिता का स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ, तो आपने जो बताया एक अच्छा मार्गदर्शन किया सर आपने, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत आभार। और सर को तो गणेश राव सर को बहुत बहुत आभार कि हमेशा कोई ना कोई कार्यक्रम इग्नू के माध्यम से होता है और अक्सर ये फेसबुक के सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से हम लोग को मिलता है और जब भी ये इस तरह का ज्ञान यज्ञ चलता है तो मैं जुड़ भी जाता हूँ। तो ये बहुत बड़ा अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म है किसी के प्रचार प्रसार के लिए, किसी भी चीजों का ये अच्छा एक माध्यम बना है गूगल मीट और जूम की, कम से कम घर बैठे दूर दराज में जो लोग बैठे हैं उनको कुछ सीखने का अवसर मिल पाता है। इसके लिए बहुत बहुत आभार सर, धन्यवाद। थैंक यू सर।
Thank you. Dhanyawad, Mr. Sonu Kumar, for your feedback. Any students, even you can ask in Telugu also. Professor Ishwar Rao is also Telugu person. Anyone from the Women's College want to ask any question? This is a good topic in your history, or even even economic students also. It is a general topic. I request Dr. Sesh Kumar, Assistant Regional Director, now the Deputy Director, RC Nagpur. Dr. Sesh Kumar.
So good evening. So good morning. Sir,
Yeah, please.
yeah, it was a really wonderful session, sir. Like, the insight which have been given about the title was excellent, sir. And really, it was been a very interpretive session for like faculties of anthropology like me.
Background, there is a noise is coming. Can you?
I was there in other class also, sir. That's what. Sorry. And actually,
You can mute that one.
yes. Thank you for having me session. It was a wonderful session, and I really thank.
You mute another meeting.
Yes. Oh,
Now you can speak.
that's what. I really thank Professor Eswar Rao sir. Like delivered a wonderful, informative session. And I also thank RC Vaisak for arranging this session. Like this is what the concept of today. Like there is a issues over there in the real attempt societies में अभी क्या issues चल रहे थे अभी के ये चल रहे थे size really we have to be taken to the current generation that what supposed to be they thought about the science. And really it was a wonderful session and thank you so much for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sashi. Now I request Dr. Sirisha ji.
Sir, good afternoon.
Yeah, please, madam.
Sorry, sir, I'm attending National Science Day in our college.
Yeah, please.
Sir, the session provided valuable insights and wonderful knowledge. Actually, throughout the session was very, very, very interesting to our arts students, especially. I hope our students enriched their knowledges. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for organizing wonderful seminar. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, she is also economist, and now it is a general topic where Professor Ishwar Rao has given.
Yes, sir.
I think we are recording the same. We will upload in our YouTube channel. I hope
Okay, sir.
all our subscribers and you can also tell to your students. To
Sure, sir.
subscribe
Sure.
to our YouTube channel. This wonderful lecture will be available along with the other videos of the lectures also.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sirisha Garu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
For
much.
support and also for attending this one as
Sir,
well as your students.
we should say thanks, sir, because of this wonderful lecture. Our students became very, very beneficial. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Any other students? Okay. I hope everything is clear. Anyhow, it is my responsibility to say thanks to today's speaker, eminent scholar, Professor B. Ishwar Rao, for wonderful lecture. Particularly, I'm very admire and also very happy connecting this topic with the science as well as the nationalism, the scientist philosophy, their thinking, their ideology towards the social development also. That really touched me a lot as a follower of Dr. Babasaheb B.R. Ambedkar, where even after these many 75 years of the independence and also the constitution safeguards, still there is a following of these atrocities and the social discrimination on the name of the caste, creed, gender. That anyhow, due to our Indian great constitution, safeguards are protecting these lower strata people. However, before means pre-independence, even independent time also, our great leaders are having this type of the ideology where everyone should be treated equally, and also the knowledge should have the freedom. That really likes me a lot. And this scientific culture and the popularizing the modern science. For that, how the our leaders, our scientists have thought, and how the ideology they analyzed and presented to the society development. That really we all should learn from the leaders and our nationalists, as well as the scientists, and we all together have to pave the way to the better India and egalitarian India, which dreamt by the Dr. Babasaheb B.R. Ambedkar on this National Science Day, where we are taking the stocks from the different scientists, this ideology and the philosophy, which we all have to follow for the betterment of our India. Really, I'm very thankful to you, Professor Ishwarauji,
Thank
for
you.
a wonderful talk. I also thank Dr. Sirisha, our study center coordinator, and the professor at the Government Women's Degree College. I also thank all my regional center staff, study center staff, and my dear learners. You are the important for spending your valuable time and attending this webinar, where we had the 170 students attended this one, who made this event as a grand success. Thanks to everyone on behalf of the
Thank
IGNO Regional Center, Visakhapatnam, and we are closing this meeting. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Krishna.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll meet. Huh?
yes. I will send this link also.